We are totally different. And some of the things that, as you said in rules yesterday, Mr. McGovern, the last 4 years under the Biden, Zara Harris administration have wrecked this country. You mentioned yesterday, and I brought this up in rules, empathy for children. Where's the empathy for the 300,000 that this administration is letting in this country unaccompanied? God knows what's happening to them, of the 15 million that are coming in here. How is that working for America? How is it working for America when you're taking the side of the criminal and putting handcuffs on the policeman, on your defund police activity? How is your actions of this administration on tax cuts, tax? You want the federal government to tell these people where to spend their money. We're not having it. The reason the amendments aren't made in order, they're dumb. Some of them are good, but most of them are dumb, and they're anti-freedom.
Again, I'll reiterate what the gentleman from South Carolina just said. We have different viewpoints and different values. I'm sorry that he feels he lives in a wrecked country. I don't believe that. I think the United States of America is the greatest country on this planet. And I'm proud to serve in Congress to try to help the people of this country. I would never refer to this country as a wrecked country. And again, the gentleman who just spoke, I thought when he was appointed to the Rules Committee, he was appointed to make sure that we had a more open process. And I regret to inform the gentleman that 106 closed rules slipped by him this Congress. I appreciate him standing in the breach. And by the way, when he refers to all the amendments that were rejected as being dumb, 50% of them were of Republican amendments. Yeah, were denied. I think 27 of your amendments were denied. I wouldn't classify them as dumb, even though I may disagree with the intent. Beneath all these statistics about closed rules are actual ideas that are being blocked from being debated on the House floor. These are thoughtful proposals that members have worked hard to develop, ideas to help actual people, and they deserved a debate and an up or down vote. Now, proposals like this: an amendment to disrupt the smuggling of U.S. guns across the Mexican border to help cartels, an amendment authorizing funding for DHS to combat fentanyl trafficking at our ports of entry, an amendment to prevent cuts to Meals on Wheels. That's home-delivered meals to seniors, Mr. Speaker. And that was my amendment, by the way, so I can assure you that it was a very, very good idea. They even blocked an amendment to provide postpartum mental health information to pregnant students, and that was a Republican amendment. Mr. Speaker, Republicans haven't just blocked amendments by reporting out closed rules. They're structured rules. The rules that allowed a few amendments have also continually blocked thoughtful, rule-compliant amendments. And they seem especially focused on blocking Democratic ideas from a debate and an up or down vote on the floor. A quarter of their structured rules, get this, blocked all Democratic amendments, all Democratic amendments. Now, let me quickly just list a few ideas that Republicans were either too afraid to debate or couldn't spare 10 minutes for a consideration on the House floor. An amendment to protect children from getting asthma. Amendments to ensure the regulation of dark money in politics and to prevent corrupt pay-to-play political donation deals with federal contractors. And an amendment to provide cancer screenings to federal firefighters as part of their DOD annual physicals, when we know they are exposed to cancer-causing chemicals as part of their jobs. There is simply no excuse for this, Mr. Speaker. I reserve my time.
I rise today in support of H.R. 5717, the No Bailout for Sanctuary Cities Act, but I do have to comment. The ranking member, I sit on the Rules Committee, and the ranking member and I were there last night, and we're here again on the floor together today, and all I hear is complaining. I don't hear alternatives. I hear about how bad the amendment process is, that their amendments aren't made in order, but I haven't heard them really talk about the alternatives, about what are they proposing. Are there alternatives to what we are doing? What would they do differently? But instead, we hear complaining. And I do want to talk about H.R. 5717. This bill prohibits funds from any sanctuary state or sanctuary city if those funds are being used to benefit illegal immigrants. That seems like common sense to me and to my constituents. We should not spend American tax dollars to help states and cities that are violating U.S. law so they can turn around and dole out those dollars to illegal immigrants.
After listening to the gentlelady from Minnesota, I'm confused. She said, you don't offer alternatives. That's what amendments are. They're alternative ideas. They're alternative ideas. And I just went through a list of some of the alternatives that we wanted to offer, dealing with firefighters and cancer screening, and dealing with children and asthma, dealing with making sure senior citizens have adequate access to nutrition. Those are alternatives. Those are ideas. My friends, unfortunately, are in control of this place, so they get to bring the bills to the Rules Committee. We try to present alternatives through the amendment process. But here's another alternative, and that is, if we defeat the previous question, I will offer an amendment to the rule to bring up H.R. 16, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2023. Mr. Speaker, the bigoted hatred that we are seeing directed at immigrants in Ohio and across the country is sickening. And according to research done by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism, there has been a rise in conspiracy theories that stigmatize minorities and promote hatred of ethnically diverse communities. And get this, politicians' use of bigoted rhetoric can also play a role in hate crime incidents. And it is sad, but to be frank, we didn't need researchers to tell us this. We can see and we can hear it from the Republican Party every single day. And it does a grave disservice to the dreamers, to TPS holders, and to DACA recipients in this country who only know America as their home. These are taxpayers, small business owners, educators, and critical parts of our communities. Dreamers were brought to the United States as children through no fault of their own, and it is past time to grant them the pathway to citizenship that they rightly deserve. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. There is a lot of work that needs to be done to fix our broken immigration system and secure our border. But unlike the messaging bills before us this week, this is a bill that actually does something. And it's actually bipartisan. And it sends the message that we are sick of the vitriol and hate crimes against this community, and that we value their many contributions that make this country a better place. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record, along with any extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question.
Without objection.
And to discuss our proposal, I am proud to yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Texas, a great leader, Ms. Escobar.
Gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, we are only 12 days away from a potential government shutdown, and yet here we are debating yet another slate of unserious Republican policies, so-called anti-woke bills. Instead of prioritizing legislation to improve the lives of the American people, they are set on wasting our time with political games. Instead of working on a bipartisan appropriations process with Democrats to keep our government open, the Republican Party is focused on pushing elements of Trump's Project 2025, a blueprint for a radical and draconian restructuring of our country that includes eliminating many of our freedoms. They show us over and over that their party is gripped by troubling extremism. Their incessant, dangerous rhetoric about immigrants is but one example of this extremism. My Democratic colleagues and I remain focused and committed to real solutions that improve our country and our economy, which is why if we defeat the previous question, we will come together to pass meaningful, life-changing legislation like the American Dream and Promise Act, a common-sense bill that has bipartisan support. Despite high public support for Dreamers who were brought to the country as children and are proud to call the United States home, Dreamers had the rug pulled out from under them in 2017 when former President Donald Trump abruptly terminated the DACA program. Since then, Dreamers and their families have been caught up in a court battle, not just for the fate of the program, but for their future. The American Dream and Promise Act could put an end to years of fear and uncertainty for Dreamers, as well as TPS and DED recipients, and countless mixed status families who dread the day their loved one may no longer be here. This bill is a vital step toward providing dignity, stability, and security for those individuals who for years have contributed to our communities, to our economy, and our American story. I urge my colleagues to use our limited time here in Washington, D.C. on real solutions. Help us defeat the previous questions so we can instead do real work that makes a real impact, like the American Dream and Promise Act. I yield back the balance of my time.